Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. Today's conversation is about something we're not taught in the horse world, and that's real awareness. We're taught to look for obvious lameness. We're taught what behaviors are acceptable and which ones we need to shut down. We're taught how to make the picture look right, but we're rarely taught how to see behavior as information, how to notice patterns, how to question whether our training systems or even our everyday horsekeeping, or even our horsemanship might be contributing to what we're calling resistance. And that's exactly why awareness is the first module of my online course, Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. Today, I am joined by Elaine Hayes, founder of Partnership Dressage, LLC. She is a lifelong equestrian professional dressage trainer, FEI competitor, and Elaine's entire approach shifted when she stopped asking, how do I fix this? And started asking, what am I missing? And that willingness to really look, even when it was uncomfortable, and it got really uncomfortable, led her down a path that changed her training, her business model, and her definition of putting the horse first. I'm so excited to have Elaine on the podcast, so let's get started. Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. I'm Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened, and this is the Thinking Horse and Rider, the podcast dedicated to training you to become the best possible partner for your horse. Here, we explore the science and soul of horsemanship. We dive into equine behavior, the psychology of partnership, and compassionate training methods that help you become a thinking rider who creates a thinking horse. Because when you understand how your horse's mind works and show up with empathy and presence, everything gets easier and a whole lot more fun. My goal is to keep riding easy and fun for everyone, while helping you deepen your connection, find more flow, and maybe even create your own unicorn along the way. Whether you're working on dressage movements or just trying to understand why your horse did that thing they did, we'll explore the research, the real talk, and the small shifts that make a big difference in and out of the saddle. So grab your boots, take a deep breath. What are you waiting for? Come ride with me. Today's conversation is a powerful example of why awareness is the very first module in my online course, Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. Today, I'm joined by Elaine Hayes, founder of Partnership Dressage, LLC. Elaine's work and her entire business model shifted dramatically after being confronted with the realities of ECVM in horses she loved and trained. What followed was not just a change in training, but a deep reevaluation of responsibility, ethics, and what it truly means to put the horse first in a professional system that doesn't always make that easy. Elaine, I'm really glad you're here. I'd love for you to take a few minutes and introduce yourself, your background, your work, and the path that brought you here.
Great. Thanks. I'm so glad to be here, Anna. Thanks for having me. So I am a lifelong dressage rider and trainer. Started a long time ago in the 80s. I'm originally from Michigan. I live in North Carolina now. I learned a classical system for which I'm eternally grateful. I learned not to pull when I was like 16 years old. So that's been drilled into my head from some very classical mentor. That's my real foundation. And interestingly, all these many years later, that is the one thing that has been a constant in my business and my life and the way I interact with horses. It really is like the classical dressage piece that hasn't changed. Everything else has changed, but that hasn't changed. So, I'm just your typical horse trainer, dressage instructor, worked my way up the levels, didn't have a bunch of money, didn't have a fancy horse, and didn't do the young riders because of that. At the time I was a young rider, I had a Holsteiner thoroughbred mare who, speaking of ECVM, I'm sure she was affected. This is long before I knew about it, but she was difficult. Somehow I got her to fourth level, but it wasn't pretty, and she was not going to be my young rider horse. And then of course I ended up selling her, which in hindsight, that there's a whole ethical problem with that sort of thing, dumping horses that are not okay. But of course, I didn't know any of that at the time. But sort of propelled me into, well, I need to get a better horse, as in the traditional dressage model. What can the horse do for me? I need a horse that can compete. I need a horse that can go up the levels. I found my other young horse at an auction. She had other issues, but managed to get her to third level. Sold her. It's kind of a evolution of client horses, my personal horses, and the goal was always being, I want to be a Grand Prix dressage trainer. So I did stumble upon a horse in, gosh, now 2007, 2008. Reggie. He was a 8-year-old pasture ornament Hanoverian from a local breeder that I sort of made a deal with her, like, hey, I can take this horse and, it'll be kind of mine, kind of yours, And he did make it all the way to Grand Prix. Actually, quite quickly, he climbed the levels, and I got my gold medal. So that was like one, check mark off my list on the business things I want to achieve. And in hindsight, he was, I'm going to say he was mostly healthy. Near the end, I mean, he was hypermobile, so that's another problem in the dressage industry. Again, I didn't know, which is kind of funny now when I look at it. I'm like, hello, but you don't know what you don't know, and he ended up having DSLD, so I put him down because he couldn't walk. Literally, he couldn't walk. That's how bad it got, how fast it got that bad. And then at that same time is when I fully discovered ECVM with a thoroughbred I had. Happened literally within 2 months of Reggie being put to sleep, my Grand Prix horse, and then Jack, my thoroughbred, who was going to be a turn around and resell. I used to do that too. But he wasn't okay either. And then that sort of culminated in, the crash and burn portion of my of my journey. And it's a little bit still in it right now, I think, trying to get out of it and redefine what I do. But it was a tough, 2023 was a tough year. I now run an ECVM support group on Facebook because one of the things about ECVM in particular is once you know about it, you kind of see it everywhere. And it's not because I'm triggered, it's because like the statistics are pointing to 30 to 40% of all sport horses have ECVM. 30 to 40%. You can do the math on that. If there's 2 million horses, I mean, that's a
Right.
lot of horses. And some of them are sort of functional, but that we can talk about later. You know, not too many of them. I had to redefine kind of what I did, knowing this, because looking back on it, I looked at all these horses I had and all these horses that shaped my journey, all these difficult horses that made me go down the horsemanship rabbit hole of like, why isn't this horse progressing in his training, even though I have this classical system? Knowing what I know now, I know why they didn't progress. And I just think there's a big problem in the industry with people. This isn't a great thing to see. This is a really, really problematic part of the industry. And so any awareness I can spread about the horses physically not being okay is going to be something I'm going to do. And again, it has affected my business negatively. There's no way you can say that it hasn't. I'm just trying to find a new way forward, a new path where people want information and we can help these horses to a certain extent. And most certainly, we cannot torture them by continuing to insist that they do the thing that they cannot do. Well, that's what I'm still a dressage trainer. I have a coming 5-year-old that I started late in consent training, and no whip, no spurs, no. And he's healthy as far as I know. I have done x-rays on him. And I hope to get him to Grand Prix. I still have that goal. I just trotted him under saddle with no whip and no spurs for the first time. So it's a lot different now.
I think So interesting that you brought up how you see the problem everywhere. And from my background, we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I mentioned how I was like, there's part of me that regrets that I went the whole college route and didn't just go horses right from the get-go. And there's another part of me that doesn't. One of those things is that I studied sports medicine in college and was a certified athletic trainer. When I was in college, so this was mid late 90s, everybody was doing for runners, everybody was doing orthotics, corrective
Mm,
shoes,
mm,
right?
mhm.
And then what we realized was that those were making everybody lame.
Yeah.
So then everybody went to
You trade
Vibrams,
bone issue for soft tissue issue.
right? Everybody went to Vibrams and barefoot running, and then realized, oh, well, shit, that's making everybody lame too. So, you know, we do this in the human world too. We think that we see a problem and then we do all these things for that problem, and sometimes it's not just that problem. It's a
Hmm.
combination, or you know, maybe they do have a little malformation, but they're functional.
Hmm.
Whereas you could have a horse with ECVM that is not at all functional, right? And that also reminds me of a study when doing continuing education credits for my athletic training. I was watching a presentation from a South African physical therapist, and he had done some studies with humans. They studied rodeo cowboys and sedentary workers for 20 years, him and a group of doctors. What they found out was at the end of this 20 years, the rodeo cowboys had were happier and had a better quality of life with less pain than the sedentary office workers,
Mm.
right? Some of these people have broken every bone in their
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
right?
But they're active.
But
They're
they're
active
active,
and they love what they do.
right? So then, then I start to think, okay, well, if you have a horse that has little issues, maybe not ECVM, but other little issues.
Hmm.
Maybe they just couldn't go any
Hmm.
further, but could they be a perfectly happy lower level or trail horse or barn mate or something for somebody else and have a really good life
Yeah,
in that?
100%. And it's
Sure.
funny. Yeah, you mentioned that particular horse because that particular horse, of course, 100% that would have been perfect. But guess what happened?
Oh no.
She got bred.
Oh,
She got bred. So, and then basically she ended up, I don't want to be too hyperbolic. She ended up passing while the foal was still at her side. The birth was problematic, and so it basically killed her. And the foal she produced actually also was euthanized at an early age with probably ECVM in hindsight. I don't think the mare had it though. We just have to, this whole like, if I can't get my horse to do what they want to do and it's a mare,
yeah.
we should breed it. It's like, no, no,
No,
you shouldn't breed it,
you
actually.
shouldn't.
No.
Right.
Yeah. And
Right.
and I totally understand where people are coming from when they do that. I have thought of doing that, like with that first, the Holsteiner thoroughbred that made it to fourth level barely, and she was not okay. I did try to breed her, but luckily the breeding gods were like, yeah, no, no. So she didn't get pregnant. Thank goodness. But I didn't know. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with this horse? I don't have a lot of money. So
Right.
I get it. I totally get it. But at some point, somebody has to do better. We have to stop doing what we're doing and find a better way. So
Yes.
I'm all for that. What I have an ECVM horse in training now. The spectrum on ECVM in particular is so vast. I mean, I do think though, because I do have a lot, probably more awareness and experience than most trainers, it is for sure weighted towards the most of them are not okay. But certainly there are functional ones. I have a Grand Prix, an ex Grand Prix horse. He's retired now. He has DSLD and ECVM and ringbone and Cushing's and EORTH. And I mean, he has all the things. And
Right.
he'll be 21 this year. The DSLD is what's gonna. what's going to
Mm,
get him euthanized. But he's okay. I'm watching the hind end. But he was an international Grand Prix. I mean, he was at Hegelstrands twice. He was at, I mean, he did the gamut. He was a full on high performance horse with ECVM. So, he's definitely the more functional end of the spectrum. But still,
right.
again, would you say he was okay? No, I wouldn't say that. To this day, if I pull up with a horse trailer, I mean, he goes in the horse trailer. He's
Right.
absolutely terrified of being confined. However, he 100% consents to that because he hates pressure more than anything else. So he'll go in the
Hmm.
box and stand there shaking and fly to Europe. And he's fine. They would say, "Oh, he loads great." I mean, well, yeah, he does. He definitely walks in the horse trailer for sure.
Right.
So, we have to define what we're talking about, I think, in the horse industry. And oftentimes we're talking about these things and nobody's defined it. So, what are
Yes.
we talking about? What is consent? You know what I mean? Like, you can't just throw these words around. I would love a little bit more dialogue in the industry about what exactly we're talking about so everyone can have a clear understanding of these words.
Well, that sort of leads me into this question. So what motivated you to say yes to the conversation today? And what feels most important for you to raise awareness around right now for horses and trainers?
I'm 56 years old. I kind of feel like I'm towards the back end of my career. I have all the same goals I did before. I'm working every day. I'm not like retiring. I just have a greater awareness as you get older. I'm sure you've had this experience too, although you're younger than me. Your the way you think about things changes. So I really want to leave the horse industry better than when I came.
Hmm.
So I do think about stuff like legacy and not about me, not about ego, just about elevating the dialogue and the discourse and the trajectory of the industry so we can still enjoy horses because the time is coming. Joe Schmo off the street goes into a upper level dressage competition tomorrow. They're going to be horrified. They're horrified. They don't need to know anything. You just look with your eyes. You need to
Hmm.
know nothing to know these horses are not happy at all. And I know the industry will tell you they are, but clearly they're not. I mean, I don't know how anyone can argue otherwise. I want there to be a sustainable future for people like me who want to earn money doing what they love and teaching people how to interact with horses in a positive way that is good for the horse. And anything I can do to raise awareness on that subject and being in the industry so long, I know a lot about a lot of subjects. It's trial by fire. I think that it doesn't have to be, though. Nobody talks about these things. I have a
Right.
founder pony that I'm recovering. He was an FEI horse, downhill Morgan pony. Love him to death. Vet said to euthanize him. I just couldn't. I couldn't. And he's doing great. I knew nothing. Well, I knew horses founder and died. That's what I knew. I knew nothing more than that because nobody shares this information. I want to share how I fixed him. Not that he's totally fixed, but
Right.
there are things you can do for these horses that we aren't doing because the awareness isn't out there. So that's why I wanted to bother Anna today. Because
I
you
think there's so many levels to that, right? And there's so many nuances in the conversations. Let's talk about humans first, okay? Look how much different information there is out there in the medical field,
oh
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
There are huge diseases, disorders, things that we do not have cures for yet.
Yeah,
And there are
cancer.
people,
you
cancer,
know.
exactly, right? People are out there trying all kinds of things to
Mm-hmm.
see if they work. And what we're learning about a lot of these things is that some things work for some people and some
Mm-hmm.
things don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So horses are individuals too.
Mm-hmm.
Mammals are mammals essentially, right? So why wouldn't they have the same individual needs that humans have?
Mm-hmm.
The veterinary industry is far less specialized than the
Mm-hmm.
human medical industry. And so there are far less veterinarians. I think for somebody like me, where I live, I feel like, oh my God, we got a lot of vets.
You're
But
lucky.
have
You're
you ever
lucky.
tried to get an appointment with one?
Yeah.
You know, right?
Yeah.
It's, and they will tell you they're running ragged, trying to
The
keep up with
highest
their
rate of
clients. And
suicide.
yeah, oh yes.
Yeah.
So there aren't enough vets. There aren't enough specialization in some of these things. Everything's connected. And a lot of it comes back to money and the
Mm-hmm.
money to research these things and the money to have the diagnostic toys that
Mm-hmm.
would really help. Like ECVM, there's a protocol for x-raying, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not great,
No.
right?
Yeah, the CT is the gold standard, but the CT is big money.
It's big money, right?
Yeah.
That's cost prohibitive for most
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And so we have these little problems that are just features of the system that we are in. And
Mm-hmm.
how do we raise awareness and then not have people immediately make a judgment? I did the complete opposite for my horse that foundered, and he survived too, and he's thriving and whatever.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're
Hmm.
wrong.
Yeah, that's why I don't actually share much about the founder pony for
Right.
that
And
for that
it's,
very reason.
yes,
I
it
I
is.
did one protocol and it has worked for him, but I know there are other things that work for other horses and they have also recovered. So it's like I don't want to bang the drum of like this. Just know that when you're given a diagnostic by the vet, like you there are options. And the vet, I mean, my vet is great. He was looking out for the horse. I mean, there's no doubt that he was
Right.
suffering. So I appreciate his opinion, but we're all just guessing, really. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
I
I think we're all just guessing and we're all living our own experiences. And so can we just be nice about it,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that would go a long way towards helping people talk about these things because like you're not sharing your recovery journey because you don't want the backlash that you're going
Yeah.
to get.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's not cool.
No.
People are missing out.
Right. And I
And
don't fit the
if
box. You know what I
right,
mean? Like I have done this specific protocol, but the people that taught me, I don't go far enough for them. I do think there are other things that work. I
right.
just like I have him on a medication. They oh, you don't need that. It's like, well, you
Mm-mm.
know what? I want to make sure that he has that because I noticed a huge difference when I put him on that. So
Right.
it's like I'm going to make a nuanced personal decision for me knowing what I know. And yes, this had value, but I'm not interested going in Facebook and getting bashed. My vet
Right.
already makes fun of me for doing what I'm doing. And but again, what does he care about? He cares about the horse. Does he see
Right.
the horse getting better? He's taking the x-rays, he's seeing the improvement. So he's like, I don't know, that seems crazy, but okay. And that's what I love about him. And I just wish there was more of that in the horse industry where you can kind of shrug and you know what? Hey, is the horse thriving? And if the
Mhm.
answer is yes, who are we to judge
Right.
how we got there?
Yes. So then we have to define that term, Elaine. What is
Thriving, right.
thriving? What does that mean for domestic horses?
Right. And I built a track system on my farm. I redid my whole setup. My barn was your standard 14 stall barn with half Dutch doors. I turned in, I turned out. I've been the
Hmm.
last 5 years retrofitting my property to trying to get it where they can be out most of the time. They have access to shelter. These are not cheap things. These are not
No.
I don't have a lot of money. I can't
Right.
just do all that. So when I go to, the dressage barn up the road, part of me is like, oh gosh, I wish these horses could have a better life. But you know what? You know, in World War I, we strapped bombs to horses and sent them up like 5 foot deep mud with chemical warfare going off on either side, and they actually survived. A lot of them. I mean, a lot of them died, but everyone's
Right. It
doing
could
the
be
best they can.
it could be worse. And that is such a tricky conversation to have with many people because it has been worse. It could be worse. For instance, people who are, completely against riding, what would happen to all of the horses if we were just banned from riding?
Yeah.
A lot of people are not in a place where they can keep horses just as pets. I mean, a lot, look at how many people board their horses.
Mhm.
And there are people who have property and have land and have horses, but are they going to be willing to pay for those horses if they don't feel like they're getting what they want out of having those horses?
Right. And that's the elephant in the room, really, right there. That's a
Right.
big elephant.
It is, but it's okay to talk about,
Hmm.
and we don't have to get angry at each other. We can just be aware of if let's say horse racing, just one industry. If horse racing was banned tomorrow, people think there's a slaughter problem now.
Right. Well, but of course we ban slaughter in this country. So then
Right.
that's like the perfect example of what is wrong.
Yeah.
It's like no, 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 no. Now you've just added a 13-hour death ride of
Right.
torture to
Right.
an animal that you're going to euthanize. And in Mexico, it is not regulated. I mean, it's horrible.
Right.
So it's like,
Right.
what are we doing? And why can't we have the conversation? I would like to see slaughter facilities reopened. Oh my God. Like, I'm not going to put that out on Facebook. Of course, I just put it on this podcast, but you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like,
You're right. You just
it's,
said that out loud.
and I'm with you. I'm totally with you. Like, for the horses.
Yeah, I mean, when I lived in Germany, that it's a normal part of what happens. There's not the stigma around it. But it's more of a normal thing there. And they,
Right. Well, they don't have the land. I mean, I
yes,
mean,
there's many factors,
yeah,
right?
I mean, I'm
So,
fortunate to be able to bury on my property, but lots of people are not.
right,
They don't have enough land. It's too close to a water source. And we euthanize in this country with the barbiturate, which is
right,
toxic. And
right,
in Europe, they don't do that. So,
right.
there's all that too.
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
How do we do euthanasias, right? So
Yeah.
there's all of these discussions that if we could just have them without the emotions getting so high and everybody getting angry about it, I think we would be much better off and the horses would be
Yeah.
much better off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And I feel like that's another problem that I see with riders is that they get frustrated and then the horses suffer, right? Because then they get either frustrated that they're not getting where they want to go, or they're not getting this movement, or they're not getting whatever. And then
Right.
that's when the other equipment comes out and they get angry, and that's when we need the whip, and that's when we need the spurs, and that's when we
Yeah.
need the double bridle and the whatever, rather than having a conversation of what am I really missing here?
Yeah. Because
So
they don't know what they don't know.
right. And there were times when we didn't either.
Right.
I've been down basically the same path. I didn't wasn't in dressage all of my life. I have been having dressage lessons most of my life, but I started out with the hunters and the jumpers, and that's a whole nother wild ride there.
Actually, I
Um,
have someday we have to talk about the hunter industry. I have actually, you probably would be surprised what I think.
I mean, for me, it was good. I was very lucky. I had an amazing coach, and he taught me a lot of things. I'm not going to say that there weren't any bad things done,
Yeah.
but he was really the one that instilled in me that every horse is an individual. I thank him for this so much because he told me don't ride the horse like you can ride the horse. Your goal is for someone else to be able to ride the horse. So that's always in front of mind. A lot of people, or they send the horse to the trainer to be fixed, and the trainer rides it, like the trainer rides it, and
Hmm.
then sends it back to the person, and the person can't recreate.
Right. Yeah.
Well, no two people are ever going to ride the same, regardless of how talented you are. We're
Right.
not built the same. Our reaction
Right.
times are the same. Nothing is the same. So for me to ride a horse like I know how to ride a horse is not helping somebody who doesn't know the same.
Right.
It's another
And
conversation that we don't ever have.
and people give lip service to the basics, but
Hmm.
in my
Right.
opinion, the basics are just almost completely lacking. But
Yes.
the basics take up 95% of everything you're ever going to do with a horse, including a Grand Prix horse. I mean, it's basic, basic, basic work. And
Yes.
people think, oh, well, I already was a beginner and now I'm advanced. No, you're always a beginner. I'm a beginner, you know?
Right.
I just think there's these people don't want to step down, especially in dressage. Oh, well, I'm a fourth level rider.
Hmm.
My horse should do. No, your horse is training level. Your horse is always training level, and
Right.
then training in first, and then training first and second. And then a Grand Prix horse should be able to do a stretchy circle,
Right.
and
Right.
most of them can't. That's the
Right.
that's the sad part, and that's the missing basic part.
I just tell my students that you should climb a little bit and then you're going to fall back down. You learned a basic, you trained it to a point where it was good enough for what you were doing. And then when you wanted to go the next level, it wasn't good enough anymore. So
Right.
now you have to drop back down,
Yep. Hmm.
retrain that basic
Yep.
to be better than it was before. The
Yep.
last four times, if you're a
Yep.
fourth level, the last
Yep.
four times training it better than it was,
Yep.
you know, and every time you're refining, it shouldn't be getting harder, it should be getting easier,
Right. But
right?
also more nuanced. So you
Yes.
understand, like, oh, wow, that tiny little thing that I didn't even notice the first time. Well, that's
Right.
actually a really big deal
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm at fourth level. And
Right.
I
Right.
have way more nuance to my stretchy circle or whatever.
Yes.
And that's the thing I think people don't necessarily understand, and they just consider it any kind of going backwards is a negative. But
Is a
like,
negative.
I don't feel that way at all, and it sounds like you don't either.
No, it's all a learning process. This is the only sport that I am aware of where we latch ourselves onto one person
Yeah, yeah,
as our coach, trainer, whatever, and we do not have other coaches.
yeah,
And people would say to me, well, you're used to working with team sports and there's multiple positions. Da, da, da." No. Do you know how many coaches a golfer has?
yeah,
Like an international level golfer, do you know how many coaches they have?
yeah. Well, I'd imagine a lot.
Right. They have one for everything,
Yeah,
for every type of swing, for nutrition, for
yeah,
fitness, for psychology. They have one for
right.
everything.
Yeah,
Core
yeah,
strength thing. And we have one human who we expect to walk us through the whole entire process
yeah,
of
yeah,
working with another living being.
right.
It's
I
not
always
fair to
tell,
us.
I encourage my students always to go to clinics, and I always say, at the very least, you're getting information about what you don't want to do. Let's say you go and
Yes.
it's the opposite of what you're used to, and you learn some things, but you realize, ooh, that really did not work for me. Then, okay, this isn't a system that is going to work for me and my horse. And you have learned something. It might be what you're not going to do, but that's also valuable. Because
It
again, like we
is.
talked about before, you got to define what you're not willing to do before you can define who you are, what I want to do. That's too much pressure. Oh, and that's my relationship with the dressage world and why I like the hunters. I'm making this as a vast generalization. It's just less pressure. You're not trying to sit into the horse and take the right. Now, I'm sure some hunter riders do that, but like the hunter riders I see, They're off the horse's back for the most part. They have quiet hands for the most part. They have
Hmm.
normal bits for the most part, little
Hmm.
saddles. I mean, it's a fine picture for the most part. And then you have dressage, to me, on the other end of the spectrum, where it's like, this is terrible. Like, it's just terrible. I don't know. It's
Hmm.
so disheartening. And there are good dressage riders out there. I'm not saying it's all like that, but it's so intrusive.
Hmm.
It's just like an abusive, even if they're not trying. I'm not saying they even are aware of the amount of pressure, in my opinion, just off the charts with most of these dressage horses unnecessarily. But again, that's how they were taught. You got to connect the horse. Oh my gosh, that's not connecting the horse. That's
Right.
not.
Again, we need to start defining terms before we're using them because, and I think for me, there's a lot of those things that are lost in translation.
Oh yeah. And then people just ignore it because they're like, oh well, it's so complicated. I agree,
Right.
but it's like, can we attempt the conversation?
Yeah. A lot of these texts and the things that we go off are translated from German and French.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, when I was in Germany, they would all the time say, well, there's not a good English word for that. I would have these hybrid lessons in German and English because there were words that he was like, I'm not going to say that. Doesn't make sense.
Luschenstadt
In
or
English,
however you
right.
pronounce that word.
He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm going to use the German word because that makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't, because I was the same, and I learned from a German writer. He did speak good English, but he was the same way. This is the word,
Right.
and so I learned the word, and to
Yeah.
this day, I think, well, yeah, that's what that is, and there is no translation for it.
So we need to just realize that. For
Yeah.
instance, I absolutely hate the word submission. Oh my gosh, in the test.
Yes.
That can we get it out?
Yes.
Get it out.
Please.
So if we make one goal, Elaine, we can do that.
Yeah. Let's do that. I'm
Erase
totally for that.
submission from the test.
Yes.
I hate that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
But another one of the things is contact. I have a training horse that goes much better bitless. It has an old
Hmm.
hyoid injury and some neck issues, and a lot of neck issue horses go much better bitless for
True.
obvious
Hmm.
reasons. The hyoid isn't affected. Blah blah blah. So this
Yeah.
horse is like third level. We did show him last year bitless. We got an exemption from the USDF, but the owner's spending $800 to go to a horse show to not get a score.
I
And,
know.
well, we got a score, but it's not official. And the
Right.
horse would have won or gotten second in every class he went in, but nobody knows that. Nobody sees that. And why is that important? Well, she spent $800. We've trained this horse really well. He's happy bitless. And the judges' comments were great. But at the end of the day, they say, horse needs a bit in the mouth. Okay, well, you put a bit in this horse's mouth. It's not like you can't ride him with a bit, but you see a little bit of tongue only on the one side because he broke his hyoid on the other. And their thing is, we want to keep on the bit, And I'm
Right.
like, what?
That's
That's
another
it.
one.
Yeah,
Right.
I never say that. Never.
That's another one that's completely lost in translation.
But this is a massive problem. If you're a dressage rider and your trainer tells you, well, you need to get the horse on the bit, it's like, oh my God, no, can we just not ever say those words again? Because that
Yes.
is not what you're trying to do. Like what people think of is just immediately wrong because the
Right.
verbiage is wrong.
Well, it's not a good interpretation.
No.
Right.
But, again, I just seem to be out there, in the weeds, yelling from the sidelines. I do definitely think we're headed in the right direction.
I think
And
so.
I definitely think there's a growing awareness
Yes,
of the way we're doing things is not sustainable. There is a growing awareness. One of the reasons
there
why I
is.
started the ECVM group.
I think that a lot of people are going to start finding out about it the hard way,
Right.
unfortunately.
And I do think it's changing. It for sure is. And it's just slow and we need people like you to help
Yeah.
guide it in a better direction for the horses.
There's definitely momentum, which I think is great. Great.
It's hard work though. It's like the Buddhist monks. You got to get up
Right.
every day.
And do
You
it.
got to
I
go
know.
out there and do it.
How did learning about ECVM change the way you interpret behavior, resistance, training problems? and especially things that you previously might have explained away.
Yeah. So I'll just tell a brief little story of another horse that I haven't mentioned yet. His name was Bogey. He was formerly known as the Crazy Gray Horse. So the Crazy Gray Horse was a hypermobile import that one of my clients bought kind of for me to show this was going to be my next up and coming superstar. Going to show him in the 5-year-olds. He was 4 at the time. He came and the shipper asked if I could lead him off the trailer.
Oh.
That was the first the first clue I had, like, oh, huh, really?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So we got him to the barn somehow. And in hindsight, so he was just classic ECVM. And the biggest thing for people who are listening to this and don't know about ECVM, it's a neck malformation. It's where they're missing part of their neck bones in their low neck. And one of the reasons why it is so important, especially for a dressage horse, is this is the key of the thoracic sling. So horses don't have collarbones. There's no bony attachment between their head and neck and the rest of their body. So this area becomes very, very, very important for balance, for stability, for movement, for everything. So we were talking earlier about the German system and throughness and engagement. We didn't use those words, but like the problematic nature of these on the bid and these other things. Well, this area is just key to allowing a horse to move freely through the body in the way that, like, let's just say the old master taught. So if you have a malformation where the bones of where these ligaments and muscles attach to is gone, these ligaments and muscles attach somewhere else. And this is why every horse is different, because sometimes, like in Stan's case, the Grand Prix horse, he just has a partially missing tubercle and he doesn't have a transposition. I suspect, I'm not actually going to send him for dissection because, again, I'm not putting that horse on the horse trailer. I suspect that his longissimus coli muscle, which is little tiny muscles that attach the vertebra together, stabilizer muscles, I suspect that that muscle actually still attaches to C6. It's just shorter on one side than the other, which is I suspect why he's pretty functional with the ECVM. But many other horses are not. I've been to multiple dissections, and I know you just did a dissection. It is insane what some of these were. I have seen once you start getting in there, and this is why I hope more vets can get access to dissections. It is crazy what happens in an ECVM horse. And we're talking about the most important area for a horse's stability and movement and balance. Back to the Crazy Gray Horse. The one of the constants about ECVM is they actually get worse with age, okay? Because these attachments in the beginning, the horse's body does a pretty good job, I think, in rerouting these nerves and getting, and you're starting to strengthen them. As long as you're not over pushing them, it gets better. And the Crazy Gray Horse did get better until he didn't. And then that's when I really learned about horsemanship, because I knew enough to be honest enough to look in the mirror to go, yeah, this horse is showing 4th level, but this horse is not. He struggles with relaxation. This isn't correct. He's not using his back. He's a leg mover. I know what I'm doing. Why is he not getting better? Then we got into the communication, the horsemanship, the connection work, and he did get better. He did get better. That definitely helps. But again, the ceiling, when I was listening to him, got lower and lower and lower until, like, my thoroughbred ECVM horse, I could not even walk him in hand in the arena in relax. That's how bad he got. And this is the horse I used to teach lessons on. So what I would say in response to your question is the biggest thing is when your horse isn't progressing and you kind of know in your heart they should be, that's my red flag. That's my we need to x-ray the neck. Because in the past, like with the Bogey, I'm going to call him, my Crazy Gray Horse, we never did x-ray his neck, and we x-rayed everything else, x-rayed his back,
Hmm.
ulcer, the whole everything. But in hindsight, I'm convinced I ended up basically giving away as a jumper because he like over jumped. That's the other thing in jumpers. The horse that over jumps, those are the horses you want, and that's what's getting bred in the jumper. That the jumper is, I'll tell you, in my opinion, higher than 40%, 100%.
Well,
So they're purposely breeding for it accidentally. I mean, I'm not saying they know about
right.
ECVM. Some of them do, but all they know is the horse over jumps, the horse clears the fences, the horse can do a Grand Prix. We'll just inject his neck every 3 months, and those horses are living like that. So if you bring a horse to me, you're signing up for the full reality and scope of what your horse can do. So I feel like people know that. And now I have less pushback because I'm not getting regular dressage horses that want me to take their horse up they understand that if there's a problem, I am going to look for a diagnostic answer. Um,
Right.
and that's probably the biggest shift in my business. And I just think it's just a way bigger problem than people understand it to be.
That's hard because there's a lot of emotional weight that comes with realizing that a horse is physically limited or
Hmm.
compromised. And that's hard for an owner to come to terms with.
Hmm.
And then they also put the pressure on you as the trainer because you're the one that's supposed to make things work.
Hmm.
So even if it's not your fault, it kind of still is. Oh, and so where do we go with that?
Well, in my case, I was just opening my mouth and writing posts and squawking about this. I don't actually know what people were saying, but I could feel, oh, she's crazy. She's lost her mind. I am 100% sure. And I've watched too many of these horses fall apart. Like I'm just not going to be part of the problem anymore. I want to be part of the solution, fully understanding how difficult that is. But again, I think it's very rare somebody like you and we're it, dude. Like this is as good as it's gonna get. Like we're gonna have to like sort of drag the industry kicking and screaming or whatever needs to happen to get to a better place for the horses because it's 100% not going to happen from the top down because they'll just sell the horses. They'll
Right.
just rehome them like
And
I did.
I think, unfortunately, what happens to a lot of successful trainers that we know that don't compete anymore is that they get to this point and they're having success in their businesses and they don't really feel the need to compete anymore. They don't want to put that on the horses. And then the competition world is not going to pay attention. Now,
Yep.
so again, that brings us back to the money factor. And I know, Pam and that group, like they're doing what they can do, but it's expensive to do these things. And so there does need to be, I think, a push more from people who are concerned and are willing to also help financially
Yeah.
to get these research things done. And I don't mean just individual people, but groups as well,
Yeah.
like our national federations who
Yeah.
are supposed to be there for the welfare of
Right.
horses.
That's in their directives,
Right.
supposedly.
Supposedly,
Yeah.
right.
But
Um,
there is just a shout out to a vet in Southern Pines, Denali Equine. She started a
mm,
nonprofit called Rexos that is basically completely dedicated to this subject of ECVM and neck pathology in sport horses. She's doing active dissections, inviting vets at her cost, continuing eds to get vets to understand just how problematic this is. She's a young vet. Dr. Kate Workman is her name, and she's really kind of at the leading edge. Like she's seen it, and kind of dedicated her practice to, um, you know, getting it more well known. And she's already got, I think, 21 horses. She's got a paper coming out with Sharon soon, Sharon May Davies. We need the DVMs. We need people with education and veterinary expertise.
From what I gained from the dissection that I went to was that it's also difficult to get horses
Yeah.
for dissection because people have thoughts and feelings about that they don't necessarily like. So,
See, to me, that to me, just for me, I don't know, it's just my personality, I guess. To me, it's a scientific, it's like if you want your horse's life to really matter, if they weren't okay, the best thing you could do moving forward for other horses is to look in there and really see what they're dealing with. Because there is no other way to see ECVM, not really, not to fully understand
right.
than to dissect the horse's body because it's in such a deep part of the body. It's
It
so
is.
hard to
Yeah.
image that. Speaking of Dr. Kate, she had like a little ECVM learning day, and they had a horse that the vets came to work on, and this horse wasn't an ECVM horse, but it had problems and it had an old broken pelvis. Well, the broken pelvis had healed, and that wasn't actually the problem. The problem was the phrenic nerve became entrapped in these huge muscles of the hind end. And she was like, there is no imaging. You could never find
Right.
this on a live horse. You couldn't. This horse was euthanized for behavioral issues, severe behavioral issues, telling them, I'm not okay. I can't do this.
Right.
And then they dissected it and found the problem. But it just never is that your horse has severe behavioral issues without there being a physical component. It really isn't. Because
Right.
if you had a training problem, which I used to think all the horses I got that were problematic were training problems, they were people problems. And I'm not saying there aren't horses like that, but those horses, oh, they get better so fast, so
Right.
quickly and fully. And then, you know, up the levels you go. And so this
Right.
horse ended up on the table, and the owners ended up saying, hey, we'd like to donate this horse for learning. And boy, did they learn. And also on that horse, Kate showed the vets how to do these new biologic injections, because that's the other thing. The vets don't know. They don't know the soft tissue to the extent where they can inject a
Right.
nerve root. They don't know where that is. And it's not that they don't want to know, it's just there's a lot to
Well,
know.
right. We think that we have equine vets, but our equine vets did not go to school and
Right.
solely study equines.
Right.
Like
Like
if
they may
they,
have never dissected a horse and they
right,
graduated from vet school. They dissected a cow or a goat,
right,
you know,
right,
or
because
a
there's plenty
llama.
of those.
Right,
Right?
exactly. And a lot of them did. And
Yeah.
it's like, how different is a cow
Yeah.
than a horse? It's pretty different. I mean, yeah, they're mammals, but like, so are we,
Right. And
you know?
I can say from being at human dissections, there's so much that you learn. It's just amazing what bodies will do and how bodies will compensate.
Hmm.
And so on one hand, it's really great to be aware, but then you also need to be aware that two horses may have the same problem and it may manifest completely differently, or in one, it may not manifest at all.
100%.
You
Yeah.
just never know, right? And
Hmm.
so by doing these dissections and allowing people to get enough data to make some comparisons, that is so helpful. And that's what we do have in humans that we don't necessarily have in horses. How do you personally navigate the space between honoring the horse and their lived experience, but then helping their humans, maybe in the face of crisis, um, stay regulated, open, and curious instead of being defensive or dismissive and saying, Elaine, you're a crazy trainer. I'm taking my horse down the road.
Oh, that's been said.
And I'm sure it's been said. Like we've all
um,
been there, had that
yeah.
happen.
So in my early career, I just was a competition trainer, like every other competition trainer. I just wasn't abusive. I never used draw reins. I just was never that kind of trainer. So I think I got the reputation as kind of a classical sort of less heavy-handed dressage trainer, and that was what who I was, and that was fine. When I started adding the horsemanship piece, I lost some people. There's a lot of dressage riders that just don't want to really consider their horse as a sentient being with thoughts, feelings, and emotion, and they don't maybe necessarily want to consider the ramifications of their nervous system dysregulation on their horse. So that was pretty obvious with the horsemanship piece. They weren't going to go down that road. And then I grew into not being interested in working with those people because to me, if you're not interested in those parts, I'm not interested in helping you do the mechanical stuff for moving up the levels in
Right.
dressage. So that was kind of a culling of my business. And then with the ECVM, for instance, I had a sales horse. I was pretty sure he had ECVM. The owner were getting a divorce. They're lovely people, lovely horse, barn favorite. They're so sweet. He was so sweet. But you know, in my opinion, compromised. They didn't want to get the diagnostics because obviously the horse was for sale. I did not want to send this horse away because I knew what he was going to be in for, but it's not my horse. And I couldn't sell. That's what I knew. Like we talked again about what I don't do, and I'm not doing that. So he went to another trainer and at first did great. Oh, he's so much better. Oh, and then not so much, and more pressure came on, and he started, and then he became a jumper, and I mean, on down the road he went. The people that come find me now are definitely aware, like this is different. So if you're not interested in different, I'm not the place for you. To me, the biggest change in my business has been coming in the door. They already know I'm gonna unlearn a bunch of stuff and then I'm going to relearn a bunch of stuff. And I am at least vaguely aware of what I don't know
Hmm.
and what might be possible. And then when you have a student that is in the door like that, oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing ever. Because they're like, okay, today we're going to work on leading. And they're like, cool. And then that's amazing. And then it goes so fast. That's the other thing. When you let go of all the baggage and all the
Hmm.
dogma and all the making the horse do the thing and escalating pressure, and when you just let go of that and you go to the what I consider the real base of communicating with the horse, oh my gosh. The horses are like throwing a party, confetti, like oh, you know,
Right.
and the, and the
Right.
people are shocked. Well, why was I kicking it? I've been kicking for years,
Right.
and it's like, yeah, I know, and I'm sad. I'm sorry. So did I.
Right.
But you don't know what you don't know. So now the difference in my business is the people that come to me now know they don't know. And that's a huge difference because what I
Hmm.
couldn't sustain anymore, and I don't know how much you have to deal with this, what I couldn't sustain was the people who didn't know, me trying to convince them they didn't know.
Hmm.
I can't do that. I won't do that because it's impossible.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it is impossible to convince people that they don't know. And like, why should you have to do that?
Right, exactly. That's what I
Now,
because I was doing it for the horse. This is what I told myself when I was
yes,
immersed in that. I'm
right,
I'm doing it for their horse. But
right.
but also I also matter. And I
Yes,
can't.
right.
So it's evolving and learning and hoping, honestly, Anna, at the end of the day, it's just, I just
Hoping,
hope,
yes.
I hope there's enough people that want to learn that. I have a new client coming next month and she knows more about me than I don't know her, but like, she was talking to me and became very clear, like she's followed me. And I'm like, great, super,
Yeah,
wonderful, happy to have
awesome.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
But again, is there another person behind this lady? I don't know. I don't know how
I
many
know.
of them there are, you know?
Right.
And that's the
Yeah.
scary part as somebody who is a single mom with the farm, and my kids are going to college next year. I'm glad I saved money, but it's the part about the equine industry that nobody talks about.
Yes.
These starving trainers. Yeah, it's hard.
Right. I find myself a lot in with people who are in the middle. I always say, well, gosh, I would like to really find the people that already sort of jumped off the cliff, but it's always the people that are sort of in the middle that end up finding me, and that's
Well, that
okay. Like,
that's the universe telling you that you have a unique skill set
right.
that like I don't anymore because I tried to do that and I just failed. I'm not going to lie. So I hope there is because that role to me is super important. Like these people might have some small awareness and if you can with your online course and the, awareness module, which is amazing, first thing. And if
Right.
you have somebody that is willing to do that course and that first module and get through that, and I hope it's a big one. I hope it's
It
a
is.
big module.
It's been-
Great. That's awesome. And then at the end of that, if they're like, oh my gosh, I could barely get through that material. Okay, well, then maybe you're not for me. You know what I mean? But like,
Right.
at least you're setting out in the beginning to call the people that aren't going to be on board long term
Yeah,
because it is a self reflection and it is difficult to look in the mirror and it is uncomfortable.
it is. It
And
is.
you
And
are a
then,
psychologist, by the way, to the person that said
yeah,
that to you. Like you
yeah.
totally are. I mean, there's no getting beyond that.
No, we talked a little bit about this before we started recording about there's people that just they get their business to a place
Hmm.
and then they just live there and nothing changes and they don't branch out their education. They don't look for new things. There's so much coming down the pike now
Hmm.
with science that
Yeah.
where
Hmm.
a lot of
Thank
these
goodness, by
theories.
the way, in my opinion.
Yes. Oh,
Thank
yes,
goodness. Yeah.
definitely. Thank goodness. But now, for the people who are non-believers on like the woo-woo, science is actually showing it. But there's people who aren't out there looking at that. They're just out there status quo. They're paying their bills because to do something like you did is scary.
It is too scary. It
And
is. Oh, as
kudos to
somebody who
you.
did it, there was a level of, and if it doesn't work, I can sell the farm. I
Hmm.
mean, there were times, I mean, it was dark. It was real dark. I just had to
Yeah.
get to the point where I was just like,
Hmm.
F it.
Right.
Like, I just can't do this like this. And there 100% was the realization it might not work. And to this day, I don't know. I hope there continues to be people that would like to learn this. And there may be, and there may not be. I don't know. In the ECVM group, there's a common saying once you see, you can't unsee. Once you go to a dissection, you cannot unsee that. I see horses,
Hmm.
musculature, their nervous system. I know where the phrenic nerve runs. I've touched it, I've used the scalpel on it. Like once you understand a body like that, you can, it's a very life-changing experience for me.
Hmm.
You cannot look at a horse the same way again. I guess it's just an individual choice that each of us need to make. I agree with you in that we need more discussion of it. We need more support of it. We need to be not immediately bashing other people. Like there is a sustainable training path for a healthy horse that can move up the levels and at the top level it's beautiful.
Hmm.
Like and I just will not let go of that dream. I've been there before and I'm going to be there again, dang it. And because the competition people like you said they will not take you seriously if you have not done it. But
Right.
if I go out there, at least someday, my bitless horse at Grand Prix, when it's legal, then it's undeniable.
Hmm.
And they
Yeah.
can say anything they want about me or anything they want about the horse. And of course, they'll say, oh, my horse is exceptional. Because this is what they said about the pony. Oh, it's just a pony. He's just an exceptional pony. He is an
Right.
exceptional pony, but also he's
Hmm.
correctly trained, you
Yeah.
know, or he couldn't do it. He can't do it wrong. He only can do it correctly or he can't do it at all because he's in stature. very downhill and doesn't have lofty gaits. But you aren't going to change those hearts and minds without being actually in the arena doing it. And again, I am aware of the fact that I can't set out on this journey with that as a goal, and I don't have any control over what people think of me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's okay. As someone who learned their business to the ground and rebuilt it, it's the least of my problem. I don't have any problem with going to a show and having, oh, there's that crazy lady. You know,
Yeah.
that's
I think
fine.
it's amazing. I would love to see that happen.
And I think a lot of people do. So when the pony was showing FEI, I would post about it on my old profile, which got deleted. So all these like wonderful, loving posts I made about my sweet little pony are gone to the
Yeah.
ether. I know it's sad. Now I back everything up. And I learned from my lesson. But man, some of those posts got thousands of share. I mean, like it really almost went viral. And that's when I was like, see, there is a want and a desire and a need for people to embrace this little Morgan crappy
Right.
moving shit. You know, they because most people have horses like that. There definitely is a groundswell of support. I feel it. When I did show and people looked maybe a little bit down at me at the show Bitless, there were also a couple dozen people that came up to me and were like, wow, is Bitless legal now? It's so cool. So somebody's got to be out there doing it. So why not me?
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm I'm
If there
good.
was one thing that you wish more writers and even professionals understood about awareness, if you could pick one thing that would be missing in their awareness.
What I learned from the ECVM was the 24 ridden pain indicators by Sue Dyson, who sort of ironically is one of the ECVM deniers. It's a long story. I was completely unaware that those 24 things were pain indicators until that study came out, which was 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, not long.
Right.
So go to your dressage show and you see mouth gaping, teeth grinding, ear pinning, tail swishing. I just thought those were just dressage horses. Oh, they're working hard. And that one thing I would change about the industry at whole is just the acceptance that it could possibly be pain, discomfort. And I have tried to educate on that and do posts on that. That's real hard. That's people, they don't want to think their horse is uncomfortable, so they don't. The trainer tells them, "Oh, she's just this," or "Just being a bitch," or he's
Right.
always done that. Well, perhaps the horse has always been
Perhaps,
uncomfortable.
again, people get so wrapped up in the emotional part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because your horse is having pain, for instance, you can have a headache, doesn't mean you have a
Oh
brain
yeah.
tumor, right?
Oh yeah. I have lupus. I mean, I work physically every day in pain. Like,
Right.
it's
So
like,
your horse can have
yeah,
pain for any number of reasons, right?
yeah,
It may be that you're hanging on the reins too hard and you can learn to not do that. And then
right.
your horse isn't going around with his mouth wide open. And then you
Yeah.
try to tie it shut. You're
I bit
probably
less,
also causing
but
pain.
yeah. And I think a lot of the industry is marketed around not showing the pain indicator, like the
Right.
noseband being tight. And there is a lot of seeing it in plain sight so
Hmm.
much that it is easy to kind of be like, well, eh,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
because it is everywhere. So, and the reason why I want to still be out there is because if there's nothing to compare it to, then it
Yeah.
does become normal. And if you do come at it from the diagnostic, now in Sue Dyson's, the 24 ridden pain indicators, she considered you needed 8 on a regular basis to
Hmm.
consider the horse in pain. So that's a lot. That's 8 pain indicators is a clearly uncomfortable horse, in my opinion. That's so it's
Right.
not like, oh, your horse swishes the tail. The pony would always swish his tail in the canter. Again, was it discomfort? Yeah, probably. He is super downhill, and the canter was always his hardest gait. He's a 5. max cantering in the field. And he
Right.
was doing 110s. So that's really
Right.
hard, you know?
Right.
So,
But is it pain discomfort or is it just hard?
right. I mean, and who knows? But the fact
Right.
that he never had mouth gaping, never had tongue issues, never had teeth grinding. And same with my Grand Prix horse, Reggie. So by Sue Dyson's scientific model, they were not in pain
Right.
because they exhibited this one pain indicator when they did a certain thing. They did not exhibit any others.
Right.
So, scientifically, if that's what we're saying, if that was the conclusion of the peer-reviewed study,
Right.
then they were not in pain. But
Right.
again, I notice all of that. And of
Mhm.
course, the goal is to ride a horse with no pain indicators, of course. But is that realistic? No, probably not with most horses, you know?
Right. Because they weren't built to be ridden.
Exactly.
Let's
Like
be
my
honest. Right.
4-year-old who has no pathology that I know of. He hasn't had a CT, so I don't know for sure. But when I put my leg on and he goes to trot, he swishes his tail. I saw it on the
Hmm.
video, you know. Am I
Hmm.
worried about it? No. If my 17-year-old kid jumps on my back and asks me to run, I'm going to be like, whoa,
Ooh.
what? So
Right.
it is, again, the nuanced discussion of, and I do think that, like with politics these days, everything's so polarized. I'm not saying
Yes.
retire your horse because he's grinding. Let's investigate if it's the training, if it's the memory of it. And then maybe it is a physical thing, then maybe use a different bit. Don't clamp his mouth shut. Use your hands less. There's so
Right.
much to do between retirement, euthanasia, and
Right.
totally ignoring everything. There's a world in between there that I would love the horse industry to get a little more involved with and be less divided. Because
Yes. I think the same for humanity, right?
a
There's a
hundred
whole
percent. Oh, totally. Yes.
middle ground we can work
There.
in.
Yes.
And it's, yeah, and it's okay to have hard conversations,
It is
right?
definitely not sustainable the way it is
Right.
now. So like we need to change the conversation, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been fun.
It has been fun. And
And
hopefully, we can get the ball rolling a little bit on some of
yeah,
these things.
yeah, I'm definitely interested in talking more about that and hearing what your plans are.
Yeah.
I would love to
Yeah,
be involved in that. So
definitely.
cool.
Got to stick together.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you
Anna.
again. Have a
You're
great
welcome.
day.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. All right, horse fiends, thanks for hanging out with us today. If this episode got your gears turning, don't forget to check out Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. The links are in the show notes. It's the program that'll take everything we talked about here and actually help you apply it in real life with your horse. And hey, before you ride off, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review of the show. It helps more riders like you find us and keep these conversations going. All the links you need are waiting in the show notes. Happy riding!